Hola, bienvenidos a todos. Hoy es la lección de la segunda semana. Vamos a empezar con la agenda. Vamos a aprender cómo es la manera de aprender según el idioma o en este caso español. How do we learn Spanish? En general, esta parte va a estar en inglés. Después vamos a hablar de los sustantivos. Eso significa nouns en inglés. Después vamos a hablar de cómo leer y escribir en español. Eso es read and write. Y finalmente vamos a hablar de la hora, cómo decir la hora. Time, telling time. Ok, primero, cómo aprender el español, how to learn Spanish. I'm going to do this part in English. I just want to talk about just kind of general information about how do people learn Spanish and what is the parts of learning a language. As I said to those of you who are in the first meet last week, I have a master's in world language education, so this is kind of my wheelhouse. It's my favorite thing. We talk about proficiency levels. I think we'll start here first. So a lot of people will say well, are you fluent in Spanish? Well, that's not really a good gauge. It's kind of a broad term. And so a nicer way to say it is I speak at an intermediate level. I can read at a novice level. Or I would say I'm higher advanced. Distinguished is native speakers. So we talk about levels this way, and of course, as you start to go up, things get harder and harder. It becomes more challenging to make your way up that proficiency scale. When we talk about languages, there are many different components of learning a language. Of course, you have the communication, which we'll dive into a little bit deeper in the next slide. You also are talking about who's the community? What's the community like of people who speak that language? Comparisons, we compare our first language to our second language. We make connections to that language or to other content. So in this case, what is the medical field like in Spanish-speaking countries? And then culture is also multifaceted. The easiest way to explain it would be we have big C culture, which is museums and art, music. But then little C culture is the way people do things. How do you hail a taxi in Spanish? What do you say? Those are the way people speak to each other in real time. That's kind of part of that little C culture. We'll just go a little bit over communication. We have 3 modes of communication when we're learning a language. We have presentational. Most of the time when you are writing something for me, a formal document, actually, scratch that. If you were writing an essay, see here, written essay, this is where you would be. Or if you were giving a speech, it is usually rehearsed, and it is one-way communication. It is just you talking to a group of people or to one person. And it's our recordings. Our recordings are practiced, and when you have a script, it kind of falls under this, but also kind of under interpersonal, just because our scripts are presentational. Interpersonal is two-way communication. This is spontaneous. It is just having a conversation with someone, whether that be written or spoken. You can text someone back and forth, or you could just have a conversation with somebody. Answering a question in class is how you will meet that interpersonal communication, or our conversation sessions on Tuesday nights. Interpretive mode is when you are listening. So that is listening or reading. So if you're reading something in Spanish, you're just like receiving information. That is one-way communication. This is super important. It is not observed on its own. You cannot gauge someone's listening without asking them to tell you about what they heard or to write about what they heard. Same with reading. You can't gauge it on its own. You have to have either speaking or writing to see if someone has understood what they've listened to or read. In this class, you'll have asynchronous or synchronous lessons and readings. So just when you're listening to me, that is, or watching a video, reading something, that's interpretive. Okay, hemos terminado con la meta de cómo aprender el español. Ahora vamos a empezar con los sustantivos. Leer y escribir en español. Typo. Reading, not rearing. Ok, eso es el alfabeto. Falta algunas letras en español, pero vamos a hablar de estos. La mayoría de estas letras tienen la misma pronunciation, the same pronunciation, de que lo tenemos en inglés. So, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, R, R is a double R, and this is A when you have two L's. S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. These are the names of the letters. They make different sounds. So like the letter B is going to make the B sound. And then we're going to go into a lot of them make two sounds, but like the P or P makes the P sound, just like we do in English. So let's talk about the different sounds, because most of them will be the same. Okay. La letra C. Cuando la letra C está combinado con la letra I o la letra E, it makes the S sound. For example, cine, if I have the word cine, spelled like this, cine, it makes the S sound. Or cena, it's making the S sound. If it is with an O, U, or A, it's making a K sound. So cocina. Look, you have two of them in there actually. You have co and C. So you have to pay attention to what letters it's with, and that is how you'll pronounce it. Okay. La siguiente tenemos ¿qué tenemos? La letra se llama G. That's the name of the letter G. When it's with an I or E, it sounds like he, he. Cuando está con O, U, o A, it's go, gu. This is supposed to be gu or ga. So it makes a hard G sound, and up here it makes a soft. La letra L. L is the same when you just have one L, it's the same. When it is two, it is a Y sound. For example, me llamo is with two L's. Llamo, this is for me llamo, my name is, or I call myself. ñ. Obviamente esto es diferente. No existe esta letra en inglés. La ñ parece que tiene Y después de la N. Por ejemplo, iba a decir like ña. Ña es in like the nasal. Jalapeño. ño. This is the part. Okay. R. Solo es igual. Pero con dos R's, it's an R. R. If you cannot make this sound, you are not alone. It takes a very long time. If you can, awesome. But you have words, when they see two R's, you make that sound. B. It makes the B sound. That's it. B. Valeria. Vago. Hay muchas palabras en español con B. Okay, I'm sorry, we're gonna go back. I'm noticing that there are a few more to do. So, H. This letter, H, does not make any sound at all. This letter here makes a sound like the letter H. And that should be enough. So like, for example, when we were saying jalapeño, this sounds like an H. When you say the word hola, you are not pronouncing that letter. Okay. All right. Okay, hemos terminado con leer y escribir en español. Just a side note, we are going to practice all of these things. So if you want practice with these things, please come to our conversation session next Tuesday. Remember, you don't have to hand in your assignments till the following Thursday, so you can come, make adjustments, and do it that way. Okay, vamos a hablar de decir la hora. Okay, primero vamos a empezar con la hora, the hour. So you are either going to say son las. Everything in green here will follow. So you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you are saying it is 1 is a singular number. There's only one of it, right? So you need this, son, is the plural form of ser. It's more than one. So every number that is more than 1 uses son. If you are talking about 1 o'clock, it needs to be es la una. So then we move on to the minutes. So let's say we'll come back to it in a minute. Let's say we're going to play with the word, let's do ocho. Son las 8. This part goes with this. 8, and then you're talking about the minutes. So you can say en punto, on the dot. On the dot. And then, of course, this is 5, 5, 10, 15, 15, or you can, I'll come back to the orange. 20, 20, 25, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. Or you could say cuarto, this is like quarter after. Media, half, and menos cuarto, this would be going backwards. It's kind of complicated. If I was you, stick with 45. If you're really curious about this, come to the conversation session and I'll explain it. Okay, so if I want to say it's 8:28, I'm going to say son las 8:20, but it's not 25, it's 28. And it does, this is kind of like saying like 20 and, which is that Y, and 8. But we combine it to make it one word. Okay. Again, if you have questions, please come and talk. We can do some practices together. Okay, hemos terminado con decir la hora. That is what I have for you tonight. Please reach out if you have questions. Que tengan buena noche. Disfruta la semana y nos vemos. Adiós.